Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.
Hello and welcome to Capes on the Couch, where comics get counseling. I'm Anthony Sitko.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
A little bit of a new intro this week. I figured I'd, let Dr. Issues introduce himself. He is the esteemed Dr. Issues, as I always say, but...
Yep, board-certified psychiatrist, still actively practicing, still exhausting himself for random people to really do some positive in the world.
And still exhausting himself with this podcast, which we definitely appreciate. This is issue number 26, half a year, theoretically. Plus the couple of missed episodes and the hiatus, etc. But we've been doing this now for literally 6 months now, 6 months worth of episodes.
Yeah, it seems like the time really flies by, which we'll definitely appreciate with this particular episode.
Yes, I was going to say that's going to tie in very well with one Vandal Savage. But before we get started, as always, you can find our show on the Libsyn Network at through our website, capesonthecouch.live. We are distributed on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, and the iHeartRadio network. So please like and subscribe our show on whatever platform it is that you choose to listen to us on. And if you're listening on iTunes or some of the other platforms and you can leave a positive review, please do so, because it makes us feel nice, and that will also help get this show up through the ratings and rankings, and more people get to listen to it. And the more people that listen to it, hopefully we can continue to affect some positive change in the world, because that is why we're doing the show. You can also subscribe to our show through Patreon. We have a Patreon account, patreon.com/capes on the couch, where you can subscribe at the $1, $3, $5, and $10 levels. $1 gets you a shout out. So again, thank you to all of our subscribers. $3 gets you early access, as well as you can download a monthly blooper reel with all sorts of fun stuff. We just had a couple of fun bloopers right before we started the show.
Yeah.
If you're a wrestling fan, you'll definitely appreciate some of the bloopers that came out of this one.
Oh, yeah.
For $5, you get access to a longer, uncensored version of the skit, as well as guarantee that any questions that you have will be answered by us. And if you're $10, you can ask us to do a particular character, like this week. Our president level patron, Matt, has asked us to cover Vandal Savage, so it just happens to tie in with the DCCW shows. So we will be getting into one of the more immortal and long-lasting DC enemies. And side note, I didn't even know just how long Vandal Savage was a DC character.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's been around for a very, very long time. But before we get into that, we have some exciting news. Next week, we're going to finally get around to Ra's al Ghul. I swear, we're going to happen. It's going to happen come hell or high water. And then to tie into Halloween, we're going to do the Green Goblin.
Ooh,
Norman Osborn. Spooky, scary. Woo. And then at some point in the month of November, we are going to be doing our first ever podcast crossover event, which I guess is befitting a comics themed podcast like ourselves. We're going to be teaming up with our friends at Popcorn Psychology. You can check out their show at blogtalkradio.com/popcorn psychology. They are 3 therapists who do something similar to what we do. They analyze the various psychological issues of blockbuster films. So they will look at a film and discuss all of the issues inherent therein, the impact that the events have on the characters. If it's a major popcorn type film, like a superhero movie, they'll talk about, what has happened prior to this event or what will happen in the future for sequels. They've done Batman Begins. They did Logan. They did Captain America Civil War. They just had their first live episode where they covered Mean Girls.
Yeah, it's some fantastic stuff. I mean, I'm really looking forward to this. I've listened to them. I think they're doing an excellent job. They're all psychologists. They're all actively practicing, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Or it could be a complete disaster, which could still be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so Doc is going to guest on their show. We're still working out the details. And then we're going to have the 3 of them come on to our show, and we'll have just sort of a big round robin. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're still working out the details, but please stay tuned. And in the meantime, you can check out their show, Not Safe for Work Audio, because they do not hold themselves back on the profanity. So just giving you a heads up on that. But otherwise, it's a lot of fun to listen to, and they have some very interesting opinions. And given that it's 3 hosts as opposed to just our back and forth with a 3-host show, I think you get much more of a collaborative and wide-ranging discussion because each of them bring different viewpoints. You have an individual, a child, and a family therapist. So each of them necessarily comes from a different background, and they all bring something very, very different and unique to the show. So we're looking forward to collaborating with them.
Yep, I just realized that means I'm going to be the one that brings the drugs.
Wow. Okay, yeah, I guess in some manner of speaking, you will be the one that brings the drugs, so to speak. So just remember what Scarface said, don't get high on your own supply. And there's also Biggie. Yeah. I forget which one of the crack commandments that was.
Oh, my goodness. By the way, we don't condone the use of illicit drugs, people.
Yeah, just illicit ones. So last thing before we begin the episode, I just want to thank everybody for their very kind words. Last week was Mental Health Day, World Mental Health Day, which we forgot to mention in the episode proper. But I wrote an essay for the site explaining my history with depression, and I likened it to a recurring villain, which I thought was an apt metaphor for a comics-themed podcast like this. And the feedback that I have received since writing that has been amazing, and just I'm so grateful that my words resonated so profoundly with so many people. And just, again, the notion that my words can help shine a light and destigmatize the discussion about mental health. I know that's what we do week in, week out. But if you can make it a little more personal, as I did with my descriptions about high school and then out of high school and my recurring battles since then. And even now, as I'm speaking to you, I am coming out of a sort of a depressive state. I'm still working on it. Some days are better than others. It's not anything that I anticipate is going to be cured or go away for the rest of my life. It's something that I'm going to have to grapple with, and I'm going to have to constantly stay vigilant. And it's not always easy. It's certainly not fun, but this is my little cross to bear, so to speak. And I know that it's not going to be easy, but talking about it and knowing that there are so many others out there like me who have it either the same as me or worse than me or better than me. It's not a competition, but we're all in this together. Everyone has their own demons that they're dealing with. And if we all collectively talk about them, we can all help each other bear that burden. And so that was my sort of little piece that I wanted to write for World Mental Health Day. And again, Doc, you've been instrumental in helping me throughout my life and all the years that we've been friends. So I just want to, again, say it, I know I said it in the piece, but I say it to you now face to face. Thank you. And I appreciate you and I love you for everything that you've done for me. And I would not be here without your help.
And I greatly appreciate the feedback that you gave me, because there were parts of it, and I know we had discussed it a long, long time ago, but there were parts where I didn't realize some of what I thought were offhand things that I would say would be greatly impactful. And that was naive for me to think that way. But I realized that's because of my own melancholy nature. I can't say that I've ever thought I was severely depressed to the point where I was suicidal, but I used to comment like that mainly because I thought that there are things to die for, things that you could think are so important that you'd be willing to give your life. It's not that I don't believe that anymore. It's more, I understand now that you can't make light of things when people are going through so much, and you never know at any given moment what someone is going through. And the fact that I could make that impact on someone, not just as a psychiatrist, but as a best friend, as a human being, as a family member, and, just someone walking this earth. We've talked about it on different episodes, but I think you did a better job explaining what the point of all of this is better than any one of our podcast episodes, any one of our random comments or other interactions with what we're building here in that one essay. And I think I speak for the community at large, where you've definitely done a great service, period. That's the type of thing. Forget Capes on the Couch, forget us as friends and all of that stuff. that's the type of thing that I think I need to just keep linked. And even with patients and with people that are going through things, that's the first thing I want people to be able to pick up and read. It's that powerful. Well,
thank you. I sincerely appreciate that. Again, it was just very cathartic for me to get out and for me to put some words to my feelings, because I think if you can start to describe something, it makes it easier to deal with. And that's kind of what I was going for. And again, the feedback that I've received since then and the words from people who have been in very similar situations, and they said that it meant so much to them. And again, as you said, you don't know what anyone is going through. And that's why we need to destigmatize it, because mental health is the kind of thing where it's an invisible struggle. You know, you can see if someone has a broken leg, you can see they're limping, you can see if someone is suffering from, I don't know, psoriasis. There are certain illnesses that are very visible. You don't see that with mental health. So we have to verbalize it, and we have to speak our truth, and we have to speak our struggle. So that was my little bit towards helping, again, shine a light on that. So there was some very heavy stuff, and now we're going to let's ease it up a little bit. Let's take the serious breaks off, and let's talk about one Vandal Savage, since that's what Matt wants to talk about. Vandal Savage was created by Alfred Bester and Martin Nodell in Green Lantern number 10 from December 1943. And that's what I was saying. It's appropriate that a character of immortal status as Vandal Savage is, and we'll get to that in a second, but he's been around for many, many years. I think maybe the only characters that have been around as long as Vandal Savage that we've covered has been the Joker?
Yeah. I mean, Loki, what was that, the 1960s? I mean...
Well, again, that iteration of Loki was, from the 60s, but...
Yeah, it definitely is up there. You know, and actually, I think overall, Vandal Savage is that type of character you don't automatically think about, but plays such a huge role in the DC universe. So, kudos to Matt for picking him.
And again, that plays into who he is as a character. He would be perfectly content knowing that Vandal Savage, I guess he's around because that's how he wants it. So Vandal Savage was originally a Cro-Magnon named Vandar Adg. I don't even know how you pronounce it. He was a caveman, basically, 50,000 BC, and he was bathed in the radiation of a meteorite, which gave him intelligence and immortality. And ever since then, he has claimed to have been several people throughout history, people of great renown and note. Khafre, Cheops, who built the pyramids, Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Genghis Khan, Blackbeard, the pirate, Vlad the Impaler, Jack the Ripper. He served as advisor to Erik the Red, William the Conqueror, Napoleon Bonaparte, Otto von Bismarck, Adolf Hitler. This man has either been directly responsible or in proximity to those responsible for some of the greatest wars and greatest breakthroughs in the world's history, because by virtue of his status as an immortal, he's always around, and he will find the people who are the movers and shakers, and he will cozy up to them.
Yeah, I'm not going to harp on this too much, but I'm not sure the timelines work and the geographic locations. It's comics. I'll deal with it.
I was going to say that tends to be the standard. It's comics. A wizard did it. Yeah, but clearly in this episode, a wizard did it. So he once tried to capture the Justice Society and place them in suspended animation, but he was stopped by the Golden Age and the Silver Age flashes of Jay Garrick and Barry Allen working together. At one point, he formed a villainous group called Tartarus to battle the Teen Titans. That included Gorilla Grodd, Siren, Lady Vic, a few others.
Yeah, so let's think about this for a second. If you know anything about any of those characters, you can't really picture them as a team. I don't think that's a great idea.
Well, I think that was part of the point of it. And again, I haven't had a chance to fully read all of the comics that are associated with the Tartarus run, but I'm pretty sure that was a major focus of the fact that he was bringing together people that could not cooperate as a team, and it was intentional. At one point, he was captured by authorities and sent to Salvation, which was a hellish planet that was a training ground for parademons of apocalypse. He managed to survive long enough. Interestingly, he survived by convincing a whole slew of female supervillains that were also there. Oh, work with me and we can escape. Meanwhile, his plan was, I'm going to mate with all of them and we're going to breed an army of, super powerful people, and they're going to take control of the planet. Well, all of the women figured out this was his plan, and they turned on him, but he managed to survive and escape back to Earth. But that's who Vandal Savage is. He will take every opportunity to figure out a way to work whatever situation he's in to his advantage. And as we'll get into, he has that ability because he's immortal and he can play the long con, literally.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than somebody trying to mac it at a club, You get rejected by one person, okay, you just move on to the next 1,000.
Million.
Yeah.
You got to think, though, at some point he's hit bottom. He's gone after somebody who's, I'm just imagining it's 2 a.m., it's closing time, and, 1117 AD, and he's looking at some cockeyed wench drunk on mead.
Wow.
She's some lowly serf's daughter, and he's like, you'll do.
Yep, and when she says no, I'm sure he made sure to respect what she was saying, right? Because that's what we really should be promoting.
Yeah, I don't think Vandal Savage is all about the Me Too movement. But so during Final Crisis, followers of Cain, as in biblical Cain and Abel, they attacked Savage with the Spear of Destiny. That was the one that was used to pierce Christ's side. And they branded him with the mark of Cain. So he battles the Spectre, who God told the Spectre, you're not allowed to kill Cain. The Spectre's like, well, I have to fight him, but I can't kill him, I guess. And then he allies with Ra's al Ghul, who we'll talk about next week, to defeat this group that's trying to track down the meteor that made Vandal Savage immortal.
Oh, boy. If there's anyone that would be a problem with longevity, it would be Ra's al Ghul working directly with someone like Vandal Savage. I mean, can you imagine the games of chess that they would play?
That's one long-ass game of chess.
I mean, how do you set the timer? One move every, 200 years? I don't know.
Yeah, I got nothing. So in the New 52, the DC reboot, he used a meteorite to kill his Cro-Magnon chieftain in 47,000 BC. He fought alongside the Knights Templar. He met Copernicus and killed him because Copernicus would not help him search for more asteroids. And then he allied with the Nazis to use their technology to fly into a meteorite, except the Nazi had a change of heart and turned it around. And when they landed, Vandal Savage killed him.
What is it with him dealing with Nazis? Because that's not just the comic. There's also the Justice League cartoon that did that as well. There's something about Vandal Savage and Nazis. I don't know what that is.
Well, I think it's by virtue of the fact that Vandal Savage is a very, very evil man, plus he's immortal, so you would imagine he would ally himself with the Third Reich. And in fact, at one point in the comics, he tries to create the Fourth Reich, which is a new breed of supervillains. So the whole imagery is he's very much tied into. Whatever evil is, Vandal Savage is going to be part of it. Throughout history, throughout all of history. And we saw that he claims to have been Vlad the Impaler. He was Jack the Ripper. He helped Otto von Bismarck. So if you're evil, he's going to help you. And the Nazis, the ultimate evil, it just makes sense from a writing standpoint. So during Rebirth, he gets rescued from a prison by the Secret Society and became their leader. Then throughout this whole big, long turn of events, Superman loses his powers, comes to find out Vandal Savage is responsible for that, and he nearly defeats him. And Vandal Savage is looking to defeat Superman because the meteorite that gave him his power is passing by. I guess it's like a Halley's Comet type deal. And every time it comes by, he becomes super powerful. Except now he's super powerful, and he tries to kill Superman, but he shoots him with the toxic bullet. And long story short, the toxic bullet actually burns away all of the thing that was poisoning Superman and taking away his powers, and Superman gets rejuvenated and defeats Vandal Savage because Superman has to win.
I'm going to dive a little bit more into it only because I'm that type of Superman fanboy. So Superman actually had been pretty much poisoned in a way that it was cancerous, and so he was going through this massive chemo through kryptonite radiation. But the kryptonite, since it was still toxic, as with most chemo, it was also slowly, in theory, killing him. But this other toxin from the bullet that Savage shot at him was able to burn that last part away. It was basically the ultimate 3-step chemo process that sometimes we recommend for certain types of cancers, all done in comic book style. So it's one of those situations where life imitates art, except it gave Lord superpowers, I guess, instead of a lot of sickness.
Again, it's comics. Doesn't always have to make sense. That's the background on Vandal Savage. So the first issue and the question that Matt really wanted to delve into is Matt said it was stated in some comic, I don't remember which one, but Vandal Savage's assets was more than the world's GDP combined. So Matt's question is, you literally have like all the money in the world. Why conquer? Why fight? Why don't you just sit back and let your money do the work for you? So I guess that's the first question, is if we can imagine Vandal Savage theoretically has the ability to just sit back and be the ultimate puppet master, because as we've seen in the last 10, 15 years in politics, certainly American politics, money is king. Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill, y'all. Money speaks. And the more you have it, the louder you can talk. Vandal Savage has the ultimate megaphone, the ultimate loudspeaker. Why continue to get your hands dirty? Why not just sit back and let the money do the work for you? Doc?
I know, right? I mean, I agree with Matt from a real base standpoint, but there's just one little section that we have to take into account. Anthony, have you ever played Civilization games?
I think I played Civ 5, and I've definitely played a ton of FreeCiv. It's basically like a open source version of it. It's Civilization, not necessarily by name, but it's got all the things. You can control the armies and so on and so forth.
Right. Well, the whole point...
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. The whole point, though, is that in theory, when you're starting the game, you have very limited resources, and then some of the choices you make are going to determine how those resources develop, where you deploy them, how you're going to use the people at hand. Vandal Savage has a great starting point if he has all the money in the world. That's fantastic. How does he use it? Because even if the money is infinite, the people that he's going to have to use it on and the resources that he's going to need to continue whatever it is that he wants to do at any given time are almost all finite. People die. It doesn't matter if he's able to buy off a president or able to bribe a dictator or whatever. They're going to go away, and he's going to have to do it again for the next person. And that next person may find out, hey, you got all... I'll stick to U.S. currency. You got all the Benjamins. Give me that. It's not a matter of just what he wants. It's what everyone that ever comes in contact with him is going to want. In other words, let's say you just... I know I've used the lottery thing before, but I'll go a different direction. You were completely destitute and you happen to be very athletic, you get drafted in the first round of a major professional sports league, and you just got a guaranteed contract for millions. Anybody that's listened to any former athlete, what is the first thing that happens when they sign those papers?
Oh, the money goes away.
Why?
Because they spend it on frivolous stuff.
That's true.
Hookers and blow.
Okay. The point is interactions with unimportant things or leeches. All of a sudden, the cousins that you didn't even know you had come out of the woodwork. People saying, I have a business that I want you to invest in.
How did MC Hammer go bankrupt?
Oh, man. But yeah, that fits. All of that. Now, Vandal Savage doesn't have an interest in those things. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he has to actually take the energy to deal with all of those things. Because even if he can just squash everything, he's going to have to keep doing it. Because last time I checked, we're still reproducing. We're still coming around, and we're still going to have our goals, wants, needs, envies, and all the other things that are going to make his life, however long it is, as long as other people are around, it's going to be a living hell if he doesn't deal with it properly. So he can sit and the money itself can grow. That's fine. He still has to stroke egos. He still has to bash down the people that are going to be fighting against him. He's going to have to keep all of that in mind. And heaven forbid he has other ones. You know, we already established that he loves the ladies. I don't think they're just going to sit back and say, oh, yeah, you keep all that money. Don't involve me. He has daughters. He has children. As a matter of fact, I think in one of the iterations, he's the father of Beowulf. I swear to God. Somebody look that up, which also says a lot, once again, about his tastes.
Yeah, if he's if he's stripping Grendel's mother, oh boy.
Okay, so anyway, the point being, to answer Matt's question, yeah, in theory, the money part isn't the issue. It's everything that goes with the money that he still has to manage, and he's going to have to manage it for generation after generation with all the other people that aren't going to know exactly how he deals with it. That's the problem. It's not like he's keeping around people that say, oh, yeah, I know Vandal Savage. He always handles things this way or that way or whatever. No, it's going to be like, I want my shot. What makes you so special? What makes you so important? So he's going to have from Brooklyn. So he's going to have to keep dealing with that. It's an annoyance to him, I'm sure. But at the same time, I can picture someone like Vandal Savage basically saying, all right, I guess this is just the updated game this year. I'm playing Civ 2022 instead of Civ 2021.
Well, I was going to say, if you were operating on that scale, because again, let's keep in mind the average human lifespan, even in comic books, is still going to be, say, 80 to 85 years. Just roughly speaking, it's a generally decent life. He's operating on millennia, 50,000 years. I don't know that even dealing with that stuff, even with the money and all of those things, whatever, it's a mild annoyance for him because they're going to be dead and gone. And yes, he's going to have to rebuy the influence for the next leader, for the next person who comes up, but he can continue to do that.
Right. And another thing, it's really naive for someone like me to say, oh, yeah, he has all the money in the world. Currency, the concept of currency has changed over time. I'm pretty sure Vandal wasn't dealing with Bitcoin.
I was literally just about to say, I wonder what kind of a beating he took on Bitcoin.
You know, well,
did he invest in Dogecoin?
Well, see, the point is, even if he did,
Ethereum, maybe?
Yeah, here's the point. He can ride it to the bottom. It doesn't matter. He can wait. He can buy it all up right now and just say, okay, in 3,000 years where it's literally thought coin, he has all of it anyway because he never sold. That's the power of that type of longevity.
Interesting. I guess I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, he has been around literally since the beginning of fiat currency, back when they were just bartering, and then throughout all the ages with money. And he's got, if he still had some of those currencies like the original, he could just trade that for money, just original dollar bills or coins. Doesn't mean anything to him, but the value attached to those pieces of currency would be huge.
And don't get me wrong, he could set up systems where he doesn't have to deal with the minutia of everyday life. Why would he want to? But that doesn't change the big things that will still happen. There's still going to be wars. There's still going to be conflicts. There's still going to be the opportunities to create different parts of society that you like in your image. Those are all things that require a more active hand as opposed to a passive hand.
Fair enough. So I guess there'll always be a need for him to get his hands dirty, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So the next thing that I want to talk about, and it delves in and I guess ties in with what we were just talking about, is Vandal Savage is very much about this exclusivity and proximity to power. He never pals around with the common man. He never hangs out with your average Joe. Just the list of the people that he claimed to have been throughout history, or the people that he served as advisor to. These are all household names if you've done any sort of historical study at all. You know all of these names. He knows everybody who is anybody.
Yep.
That speaks to a certain mindset and the type of person that Vandal Savage is. Doc, what kind of person is that who constantly needs to be around those in power? And to reference something that we talked about very briefly before we started on air, and also something that I know is very popular to you, he has to be in the room where it happens. The room where it happens. The room where it happens.
Yeah. He is the permanent VIP. That's what he strives for. That's what he craves. The idea that he would ever have to waste a second outside of that realm, I think would terrify him, to be honest. I think the idea that life can be at its highest level at all times because other people recognize it, That's intoxicating.
I was just going to say, so if he were hanging around the plastics and they were like, you can't sit with us. To tie it into, well, popcorn psychology, they just did Mean Girls. The plastic. You can't sit with us. On Wednesdays, we wear pink. Do you think Vandal Savage would wear pink on Wednesdays just to hang out with the Mean Girls?
I think to get in, he would wear pink, and then magically it would shift a little bit to lavender, and then all of a sudden it would be blue, and all of a sudden they would have these nice little necklaces that all said Savage on the side. In other words, he does it initially very insidious, as in, what can I, and this is good marketing for, or negotiating for anyone. What can I do for you? And how am I going to get your needs met? Because once your needs are met, I know that you're going to do something for me. And
but would he start saying fetch?
I can't answer that.
Can Vandal Savage make fetch happen? I'm sorry. I got off on a tangent. But I'm sorry to detract from your very legitimate point. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
I had to keep going with it.
That's okay. That's what you do, and that's what we love. It's fine. But no, that's the point. That's the point. He's not above schmoozing. He likes the idea of hobnobbing and just being in that ambiance because it allows for so much flexibility. As a matter of fact, we see this in our current society. I'm not disparaging this at all. I'm just making an observation. When it comes to, let's go with something like education. When you're picking what college to go to, the first thing, of course, is what you want to study, what you're going to actually get in terms of knowledge and how to apply it and what that's going to do for you in the long run. The other big part, if you go to a major Ivy League school, a high-level school, the laws of physics, the literature that you read, all that stuff, that doesn't change from school to school. But the networking, the ability to create bonds with people that are going to be in positions of power as time goes on, that's priceless.
Prestige.
Vandal Savage is able to use that at every turn. We've seen it time and time again. Obviously, they give the historical examples, but even amongst the villain examples, when you mention the name Vandal Savage, you get people that sometimes will kind of roll their eyes, but also say, yeah, but we really should be listening to this guy because if we don't, we're going to be on the outside looking in. It creates an incentive for the people that are not in the room to figure out, well, how do I get in the room? And since he sets the rules, it becomes a situation where he, once again, gets to manipulate everything. All right. It's a very exclusive club. But if you want in, if you do exactly what we say at the times we say it and everything else, then I'll get what I want. I mean, you'll be in the club. That's the way he operates. It's a fascinating way to work.
Yeah, I guess. And if you have that kind of panache and that kind of pull in your circle, you can get that done. And he's been able to buy that with money and with his existing proximity to power. And he can always use that as currency, bringing that back. He can use that prestige in his past history of saying, hey, I helped this one. I helped this one. They'll vouch for me. And that's how he constantly stays in the in circle.
I wonder, how do you even put together that type of resume?
I don't think there's enough paper in the world to cover that resume.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness for the internet. Then again, even that type of online PDF, it's still loading as we speak.
Before we get into, I guess, the treatment, there's a question I have related to this that just occurred to me. What would happen if there were a situation, if there were a group of powerful individuals who refused to admit Vandal Savage, or that deemed him either he was uncouth or they didn't like his style, or that they had more lofty needs or desires and that his vision wasn't going to mesh with them? Now you've got this proximity to power, but they're excluding Vandal Savage. How would he take that?
Well, first of all, I'd like to petition DC Comics for an advancement in pay for the storyline that we'll create around that. Second of all, to really answer the question, I think we would see more aggression than we had ever seen before. I think it would be an emotional powder keg for him. We might see significant depression, actually, because you don't do that to Vandal Savage. How dare you do that to
Because
Vandal
I'm just
Savage?
thinking Vandal Savage would, if he wants power, why doesn't he try to join the Justice League? You've got the greatest collection of heroes in their universe, the most powerful individuals, Superman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, Batman with all of his money and mental prowess and so on and so forth. This is the greatest collection of power the world has ever known. Why does Vandal Savage not want to join the Justice League? If he's that intent on establishing himself as a go-to guy for power, why doesn't he try to join the Justice League?
Because it's not on his terms. There's a difference between saying you want to join people for a greater cause and saying you want to join people for my cause. Vandal Savage is not above that. He's willing to he's willing to toe the line. He'll be a subordinate in a powerful group if it still advances his agenda. Once things start to shift and it's clearly not going to forward his agenda, it seems to magically fall apart for a lot of these organizations that he's involved in. And yet, although he's defeated, what's the other thing that's on his side so he doesn't have to worry so much about it?
Time.
Exactly. He can brush it off. There's always next season if we're going to use a sports analogy. So
there's always next century.
Yeah, he doesn't have nearly as much skin in the game for a one-time deal. It's irrelevant. He can make deal after deal after deal, and whatever sticks works. Throw everything at the wall. Whatever sticks, great. But why, to bring it back to your point, then why not include the Justice League in that? Why not include a lot of the hero leagues as an opportunity? Well, because he already knows that has a negative predictive value based on the agendas that he sets. He already knows they're going to reject what he wants to do. So why would he bash his head against the wall over and over and over again, expecting some sort of miracle that, oh yeah, we changed our mind. It's okay. If you want to commit genocide, that's cool. Or if you want, or if you want to make sure that we, remove everybody from power and give more to you, yeah, that's great. He knows that's not going to happen. So don't waste the effort.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. And that ties into, I guess, the last issue that I wanted to address, which is he's got all the patience in the world because of his immortality. Yet it has to be frustrating for someone to see such incremental change on his timeline. For us, again, going back to the human lifetime, just there are people who have been around since before there were automobiles, or, just at the dawn of automobiles. The world has gone through so much change since they can conceive of it. Yet for Vandal Savage, it's like blinking. What does that do to your psyche to have these goals and these plans, but have to see them play out in his mind at such a slow pace? And I'll equate it to a character like Quicksilver, who is generally portrayed as kind of rude and boorish, because for Quicksilver, who operates on a level so fast, us speaking and having this conversation is so incredibly mind-numbingly slow for him that it irritates him on a second-to-second basis. That same mindset, I think, would apply to Vandal Savage. It's not exactly the same, but it's protracted out over such an extended time period that he must get frustrated over what he perceives as a lack of progress.
I'm going to do one of my favorite quirks when describing someone in this circumstance. I'm already doing it. I'm from the slow speakers of America. And as a slow speaker of don't turn the podcast off. I swear. Don't. I was giving that as an example. You knew what I was about to say. I was going to continue the phrase slow speakers of America because I already did it once. So first of all, he has to deal not just with iterations and improvements or changes over time. He has to deal with sometimes people going down the exact same road that they've gone down before. He knows how it's going to play out. And no matter what he says or whatever advice he might be able to give or point out, hey, I have direct experience in this, they're going to do it anyway. And then when they do it, after they do it, he has to point out, like, why'd you waste your time? Why'd you waste my time? So when you talk about the frustration, it's not just whether or not it gets acted out. How many times have we heard the saying, if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it? We're all lemmings on, in the long scale of things because we only have one life. And that life is usually less than a century. So for a man that's gone through 400 centuries, I'm sorry. That's the type of thing where we look like absolute buffoons. So I wouldn't even call it arrogance. I think it's just obvious experience. If you see people doing the same thing over and over again and acting like, lower base life forms, what kind of respect are you going to have for them? You're going to think, this is ridiculous. These are vermin. What am I going to do to corral them? Which also may play to why he does what he does in terms of trying to maintain power. Because he's trying to herd what he sees as a bunch of cats that are just like going all willy-nilly, not really having a purpose. Whatever his goals usually are going to be centuries or millennia long. And unfortunately, that also means he can't relate to anything that anybody would want to do in a short time period. So you lose that type of connection. Aside from the base factor, as we already established, people like sex, people like feeling good in general. Okay, he can relate to that still. But even then, let's be honest. Everybody loves the idea of a certain type of party. You could think of something that you've really enjoyed in your life. If you did that same thing every day for the next, let's say, the next year. Let's say you have a favorite restaurant, you have a favorite meal, and I know I'm going to get some feedback about this saying, hey, I would love it anyway. But be honest with yourself. Even if you love filet mignon, if you ate filet mignon for every meal for the next 365 days, you're going to be pretty darn tired of it. As a matter of fact, you might start feeling sick about it. You might actually have an adverse reaction to it. So for someone like him, does that mean it's every day? Of course not. But we're still talking way more than any human being was really designed to experience. So he could probably get sick of a lot of things over time.
Very, very true. So let's move into the treatment now, and beginning as we always do with the in-universe treatment. I don't even know where you'd begin, Doc.
Okay. Thank goodness for in-universe. Anybody familiar with the speed treadmill?
Yes.
Okay. So I would have a couple of my peeps, any of the Flashes or Superman, just get on that thing and I try and go back. Way back.
Back into time.
Thank you. See, this is why this is my guy here. He gets these references. The point is, I'd like to go back as far as I could and find a Vandal Savage that's malleable, that still has a lot more experiences to have in life. Because anything beyond that, he's going to be kind of a stone wall. He's seen it all, done it all. What am I adding? If I can get him, relatively speaking, when he's young, because let's think about this. I'm not going to be able to relate to someone that's never held a phone in their hand or written anything, or I can't go back necessarily to the Neanderthal days. That's just a completely different construct that wouldn't really help me, I don't think. But if I can get back to a civilization that has a much more structured communication, then I might be able to kind of steer him so that I wouldn't even say he has a particular diagnosis, just the idea, dude, if you're going to be dealing with this for a long time, you can really build things up. And since you have the predilection for doing things on that gradual pace and being that nuanced person that can influence people as well as the person with the sword that really sticks it to everyone, I mean, you can also extend that olive branch. And you can plant more trees, and you can really watch a peace flourish in a society. Who says it has to be war? Who says it has to be just this pure accumulation of everything? Because what's the worst that happens if you, in theory, gave it all away? Oh, no, you'll have to do exactly what you've demonstrated you can do. Just build it back up, which in a way is a challenge in and of itself. I would try and teach him ways that he may not have thought of before in terms of, okay, you're always looking at the top, but that's the problem. That's the tip of the iceberg. You haven't experienced any of this other stuff. In a way, it's different from someone like the episode we did with Multiple Man, Jamie Madrox. Instead of having this breadth that Jamie was able to do by sending out duplicates and all that stuff, he has, and he, referring once again to Savage, he has the ultimate depth. He can take whatever time at any point and learn, or learn a skill or learn the knowledge of something in any way that he chooses, and do it at a pace that we could only dream of.
The 10,000 hours rule.
Right.
In everything.
And forget about having to schmooze your way with people. You would actually have all of those skills at such a high level, so consistently, no matter what. We all love a winner. We got to admit that. And he would automatically be there at the cream of the top all the time, but still have the backing of all the people underneath because of the way he went about it. So in a way, am I trying to create a demigod? Maybe. But the point is, I'd rather someone try and create something that's going to have a long-standing positive influence as opposed to a long-standing villainous influence.
I think that makes sense, and I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. Out of universe, I don't know how you would do a Vandal Savage, because if you take away the immortality, what you just have is a powerful, narcissistic individual with base needs, and Don't
worry. That's okay. I'll rescue you on this. What I think would be the equivalent, not someone that is on their deathbed, but someone that is still in a significant position of power in a very prestigious group that is having a lot of trouble moving forward. They're holding on to what they've built over a long period of time, and they're having a lot of angst and don't know exactly how to deal with it. Because our political system, our businesses, basically most of society is built on patriarchy. That's not me making a judgment as to whether or not women need to be more involved. I think they should be, but I'm just pointing out what I've observed. And someone in that position can feel very threatened over time, especially as things get older, because there's also ageism. So you could picture someone that has, let's say, been a CEO for decades. They're the chairman of the board at the same time, and the board comes to them and they say, Mr. Savage, I don't know how to tell you this, but well, you continue to be a great influence on all of us, and we appreciate that you built this, from the ground up. But at this point, we need to look in another direction. You're still on the board. It's just that when it comes to the executive office and the C-suite, we have to look at someone new. That's an incredibly powerful blow to take. And as a society, we often, or at least from what I've observed, look at that as, he's finally getting his. That's one way to look at it. But another way is, I have all of this that I've worked so hard for, and now it's being taken away from me. What did I do wrong? Or how do I move forward? Or how dare you? I'm going to fight you every step of the way. You have no idea how many lawyers I can, so many variations that a person could respond in circumstances like that. And I apologize. I'm not trying to alienate any listeners. I know that we're not all CEOs, executives and stuff, but we are the executives of our lives. So this does apply. Hopefully we all are going to have productive, fruitful lives that are going to be long periods of time. And there's going to become a time where people are going to ask how we're going to want to deal with these things. And it's interesting because I have someone across the table from me that knows about estate planning, that knows about those types of situations and the things you need to do to prepare. So those are not hard. I mean, I apologize. Those are very hard decisions that need to be made and adjustments that need to be made over time. So that's where I would set it up as the person I'd be doing treatment with.
I would want to be their estate planning attorney. They can put me on retainer.
I was going to say, what's the fee? What's the fee for that?
I'll go on retainer. They sound like they've got a lot of things, and I'll just be their personal attorney.
Okay, but anyway,
we can work something out.
Anyway, the treatment for that is, first of all, an appreciation of what they've done. The person usually needs to reflect. They need some time to review their lives. You know, we've talked about stages of development briefly before. So this is one of the later times where you want to make sure that you felt accomplished, that you felt appreciated. Because if you end up in a situation near the end of life or the end of your work life or the end of your family where you're about to have an empty nest and the children have left and you feel like you left something on the table that you didn't deal with, that's going to create a lot of angst, a lot of anxiety, because you're going to feel like, oh my God, I gotta do more. I gotta just get one last thing, and it's not going to happen. You have to just talk with the person about the idea. Whatever has happened is done, and you're going to have to transition into a new stage. How are you going to fill your time? How are you going to move forward? Do you have something outside of this? Because many people become driven by one focus. I use the CEO example. I'll go with it. Your business has been your life. Don't tell me that because you lost, or not even lost, but there's a change in the business that you don't have a life anymore. You have to have something. Hopefully the person has developed other interests, transitions. If they haven't, then you're going to have to help them find it. Sometimes they have to go way back and say, well, what did you like doing when you were younger? What did you like before you had all of this? Was it sports? Was it music? Was it art? Was it reading? Volunteering? If you have a lot of resources at hand, what about charity? You know, do you want to create a donor advised fund and just be the money person that, shells out to other organizations? Or do you want your own foundation? What do you want to do? You have the world as your oyster. Take advantage of it, because you just had a huge weight lifted off your shoulders. You have to reframe it because they feel like they've had something ripped away from them. Like, no. That's a lot of extra stress, and it just got lifted off. So don't worry about that. Just take your time. Use what you have. It's okay. And there are going to be bumps here and there. And, if we're talking about something like retirement, maybe the person doesn't want to retire at all. But if they do, okay. It doesn't have to be all at once. You could do like a semi-retirement, then transition. There are so many variations that people can do. And nowadays, it's even easier to find other ways to fill your hobbies. To take someone like Vandal Savage, as much as he's experienced, as much as he's learned and all that stuff, can you actually imagine him like in a sewing circle?
No.
No? You don't think he'd be knitting or crocheting anything?
No.
No?
Definitely not. I was going to say he could spend his time just surfing the internet. And just looking up, he could learn every meme there ever is. He could spend the next umpteen years just watching every single cat gif or, World Star video. World Star.
Oh,
or
my goodness.
I don't know. He could spend the rest of his life just commenting on Something Awful forums or FARC or Reddit. He could be a moderator of every subreddit ever. At some point. I don't know.
That is absolutely amazing. Here I am talking about people trying to make huge transitions in the world and everything else. And you point out that in theory, the internet can take up all of their time, as if somebody sitting doing this podcast has actually pointed out that they have a busy internet schedule.
Yes. Yes, I think the quote was, I don't have time to take out of my busy internet schedule to go on the internet to look up something for you. I think that was the quote.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. All right. So, and we're just going to leave that at that. As we often do, let's take all of this information. Let's take all of these issues and treatment options and find out what happens when we get Vandal Savage on Dr. Issues' couch.
Hello, Mr. Savage. I'm Dr. Issues.
Hello, peon.
Well, you're not one for subtlety.
Why bother? None of this is going to matter in 80 years.
But do those 80 years matter while you're experiencing them?
To someone on your scale, yes. To an immortal being like me, no.
Then I just realized I have no idea what your motivation is. I mean, I know you're imprisoned here, but as you said, you can just wait this out. So why even sit down with me?
I've been in this situation so many times, and there are always one or two things that are different. So consider me curious to see what you bring to the table.
Fair enough. But that would imply that you're going to remember such minor differences over the ages. Is it really worth it to spend time with a peon like me?
Consider it entertainment. I have to amuse myself somehow.
Entertainment. So do you play a passive role or an active role in this entertainment? Because I'm not going to put a show on for you.
Oh, but you do. Whether or not you realize it, everyone plays a role in the great show that is my life. Every action you take, everything that you do, it all works out to my advantage one way or another. People speak of playing the long con. They have no idea what that truly entails. For someone like me, it always ends up in my favor.
Well, I also know that you've had plenty of pitfalls along the way. And you don't have to lie to me and say getting defeated by superheroes is always what you want to happen.
You think you're the first person to notice I don't have a perfect record? I'm fully aware I've been bested before. And yet, do I not always return? Any victory over me is temporary by my very nature, if not my own design. I never said I don't suffer setbacks. Even gamblers beat the house once in a while. But I believe you're familiar with the expression, the house always wins, and I am the house.
So by that definition, you're content with taking a small edge over a long period of time. And that leads to usually suboptimal results. Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't expect that from someone who would have so much time to learn from mistakes.
And I wouldn't expect someone with so much experience talking to dangerous individuals to be so flippant. You speak as one who will never be familiar with death. Keep talking like this, and I will be glad to test that theory.
Point well taken. It's just, I thought you might want to go in a different direction with your next few millennia. You know, expand your horizons greater than you ever imagined. But if you want to continue this loop that you so obviously have created, then I'll just save my own neck right now.
I have learned from the greatest minds in history in every discipline imaginable. I have dined with generals of war, studied under scientists, argued hypotheses with professors in more languages than you could comprehend. What is it that you, middling mortal peon, think you could possibly teach me that my mind could not grasp?
Well, don't think of me as a source of new information. Think of me as your guide to the deepest connections of humanity that you haven't experienced for basically all of your existence.
But that's just it, Doctor. There is no emotion, no connection, no concept that I have not experienced. I have lived so many lifetimes, each of them filled with such varying scenarios that I could spend an equal number of lifetimes describing them to you, which would obviously be futile for us both.
You're right. You don't have to tell me about all those historic events. Tell me a bit about your childhood.
Oh, Doctor, you disappoint me. You were actually starting to go towards the novel before debasing yourself with such a cliché question. And here I thought you might actually be different.
Let me clarify. I'm not trying to get to the root of the problem by asking that question. I just know it's the one thing that you'll never be able to experience again. You can create as many adult personalities as you want, but you'll never be able to reinvent your childhood. You'll never be that innocent again.
I retract my dismissive comment. You do actually have something worthwhile to offer. Congratulations, Doctor. There are not many who can stagger me with words.
Well, look, I certainly can't give that childhood and that innocence. I can't give that back to you. But I do think that there's an untapped nature that you moved from a long time ago. Maybe we can, kind of hit a bit of a reset button and see where it takes us.
I can see where it takes me, but where that is, you cannot follow. By the time I get there, you will be naught but a memory. Rest assured, however, you will be in rare company. The individuals who can cement themselves in my memories are few and far between.
Well, as long as you don't schedule the next session for 100 years from now, I appreciate the sentiment.
Well played, Doctor. We shall see what your descendants think of me. So, are you going to see him again?
Well, I just realized something. Vandal isn't really that impressive. Because he did basically everything a caveman could do.
Does that include save money on car insurance?
It might.
I also noticed that you waited until after you left the room to say that. You didn't say that to his face.
Well, I'm not that stupid.
Fair point. Well played. Well played, sir. So that's going to about wrap it up. So next week, we will go from one immortal being to another effectively immortal being, Ra's al Ghul, who... We want to talk about patience, who's waited now. This is the third time we've tried to do this episode. And we're finally going to get around to it. And it's going to happen, as I say, come hell or high water. We are going to do Ra's al Ghul. And then the following week, to tie in to our to Halloween, we're going to be covering the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn.
And I can tell you my daughter's reaction was, "Aw, why?" Because she loves Spider-Man.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, she knows the Green Goblin? She knows Norman Osborn?
She specifically said, "You're doing Norman Osborn." To everyone that doesn't know exactly, my daughter is young. She's 6 years old. So I swear to you, I am not forcing this on her. She's watching TV and that sort of thing. Oh, great. Now I sound like a terrible parent.
Well, as long as you don't show her the Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man 3, I think you'll be fine. You can show her the first two Raimi films, or Homecoming, and you'll be fine. If you start showing her that, then I think Davis is going to have to show up and take her away.
Oh man, and that's the other thing. If you're listening to anywhere outside of New Jersey, that is Child Protective Services.
Oh yeah, okay. I apologize. To Jersey thing. After the Green Goblin, we're not sure when, but we're going to be having our crossover episode with our friends over at Popcorn Psychology. You can check out their show, blogtalkradio.com/popcorn psychology, and give them a listen and a subscribe. They do great things, and we're very excited about the show. We're still working on the details, but as soon as we get something concrete and we have a date and a character, we will let you know. We're in negotiations, I suppose.
Wow. Psychiatrists and psychologists negotiating. That sounds like it's fascinating. It's not.
Maybe, it could be, I suppose.
No, it's a fun conversation, really. It really isn't that complicated.
So as always, you can find our show on our website, capesonthecouch.live. You can listen to us through the Libsyn network, through Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, and the iHeartRadio network. We're also waiting for approval on Spotify. Hopefully that will be coming soon. We will announce that, and then you can listen to us on Spotify, which I just signed up for. I know I finally just joined the 21st century. It's a little strange, but because I like to own my music, I don't like to lease it. So, and that's kind of what you're doing on Spotify. You're renting it, but there's too much stuff on Spotify that I can't really get anywhere else, where I want to try it before I buy it. In any event, Spotify will hopefully be where it's at soon, and we'll let you know when that happens. And if you listen to us on a platform that allows you to like and subscribe, please like and subscribe and leave a positive review so that more people will listen to our show. You can also find us on our Patreon, patreon.com/capesonthecouch, and you can subscribe at the $1, $3, $5, and $10 levels. We have one more $10 slot open, so you can be like Matt and Brian from last week. Brian picked the episode of Hank Henshaw, And there's still one more slot available. So if there is somebody that you really want us to do every month, please, by all means, go to patreon.com/capesonthecouch and subscribe at the $10 level. And you can continue supporting this fantastic show, because if we hit the $50 a month on Patreon, we will live stream all of our recording sessions, and you can see all of the fun and inane stuff that happens that gets cut out of the episodes. And there's quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that. So, Doc, anything you want to add before we leave?
That no one has the opportunities that Vandal Savage has, so just make the best of the time you have.
Well done. Can't say it any better than that, so I won't try to. For Doc Issues, I'm Anthony Sitko. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week.
Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.